Do you enjoy soup year-round like I do, but you're a little tired of the same old thing? Well, I've got the perfect solution for you here. This is a recipe I got from Barrett Pastor for her Pastina Soup. I haven't tried it myself yet. This will be my first time, but I'm eager to give it a try. So if you want to see how this is made, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now get ready for a shock. This is the second week in a row that I'm doing someone else's recipe. I haven't had a lot of time or money to experiment a lot, so I'm digging into other people's vaults and I'm going with their recipes. Now this recipe comes from Barrett Pastor. You may follow her already on YouTube. I know some of you came over from her channel after she was talking about me on Facebook, and she was kind enough to share her cookbook with me. And I looked through and I found one of her recipes that I thought would be perfect. It is for Pastina Soup. Now, Barrett does low carb. She's not doing Weight Watchers anymore or healthy or any of that. She is going low carb. So there are some ingredients in here that I will be swapping out for other things, but I will have her recipe written up down below for you. She said I could share it with you, and I will put underneath that, as usual, the changes that I've made. Now, I don't know about you, but pastina is a very comforting food to me. It's very small pasta, like smaller than rice. And my mother used to make it for us all of the time, especially when we were sick. So I have fond memories of this type of pasta. But I couldn't find pastina at my local supermarket. I don't know why. I thought it was commonplace. But I did find instead this acini de pepe. I'm probably mashing that to bits, but this is nice small grains of pasta, and that is what you want. All right, so now let's go over the ingredients. I have here some cooking spray, and in her recipe, she uses a tablespoon of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter to saute her vegetables in. I am eliminating those so I can bring down the bites, points, and calories. Here I have 4 carrots that have been chopped. Now in the video I saw of her making this, and I will share that in a link down below as well, she did cut them up, but she just cut them into slices. I cut each of the carrots in half, then in slices, just because I wanted them a little smaller to make sure they cooked fully through. I did the same thing with 4 celery stalks that I have here. And again, I slit them down the center to make them a little thinner and then chop them up. Here I have 1 medium onion that's been chopped, and you don't have to be too precise with this because we are going to be blending the vegetables once they have cooked through. Here I have 1/2 cup of pastina, or in my case, the acini de pepe. But the small grain of pasta. You could probably also use orzo in this. I wouldn't go much bigger than orzo, because then you're getting more into like a pasta soup and less of a pastina, which means like a little pasta. Here I have 1 can of northern white beans. Now in her recipe, she does say that occasionally she will add cannellini beans, which are another white bean. I happen to have some northern white beans on hand, so I'm going to use those, just to add a little more fiber, a little more bulk to this. Here I have 2 heaping tablespoons of minced garlic. Now that would be about 6 cloves, maybe a bit more. She called for 2 heaping tablespoons of garlic, and if you've watched this channel at all, you know we love garlic in this house. So I didn't mind using that at all. But if you're a little bit less of a fan of garlic than we are, you could probably cut that down if you wanted. Here I have 3 tablespoons of Better Than Bouillon. Now that is what Barrett recommends, but she also says you could just use chicken broth, veggie broth, what have you. But I am using, instead of the Veggie Better than Bouillon that she used, I'm using the reduced sodium chicken broth. And this, if you do use it, will come up as bites or points because there is a little bit of sugar in it and a few other things that may contribute to that. But I'm using it. It's not going to be too bad on bites and points, so I didn't mind using it. But if you don't want any extra bites or points in this, you can just use regular chicken broth or veggie broth. Here I have 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. And in her video, I know she said she used like a Green Goddess seasoning mix or something. But in the recipe, the way it's written up, she says Italian seasoning, so that's what I'm going with. And here I have 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Because the Better Than Bouillon already has some salt in it, and most broths do as well, she doesn't add any to this, but at the end we'll taste and see if we need to add any. And the last ingredient that we're going to need, I have here my measuring cup because we're going to need 8 to 10 cups of water for this. I'm going with 10 because I want this a little more brothy, and I also want to make sure, because I have the beans in there, that the pasta is going to cook. In the video I saw she did cook the pasta separately, which you can do, but I think it should be fine cooking in the broth. All right, but those are all of the ingredients, so let me shuffle a few things around. We're going to get started. All right, so in her recipe, Barrett uses a skillet, like a very deep skillet. I'm using a smaller stock pot to make my soup, and I have just sprayed it with cooking spray. So now I'm going to add in the onion, celery, and carrot, and stir that all through. Now I'm gonna let them saute till they're slightly soft, about 5 or 6 minutes. I have this over medium heat. And Barrett was saying, apparently this is one of her grandmother's recipes. And she, like I was talking about with my mother and Pastina Soup, she has fond memories of this as well. So food always has great memories, which sometimes is how we get into trouble, by comforting ourselves with those memories that we associate with the food. But this is not going to be anything that you need to feel guilty about once you've eaten it, and I'm sure it's going to be delicious. So let me get these sauteed down about 5 or 6 minutes, and I'll be back. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes, and we're getting some moisture from the veggies, which is what we want. The onions are translucent. The celery is softening, and the carrots are too, although it's a little harder to tell with them. So now we're going to add in our garlic, Italian seasoning, pepper, and we're going to stir this through. It's already smelling great in here. Now, in her recipe, Barrett says saute the veggies, then add the aromatics, the garlic, the Italian seasoning, etc., and then saute it for another 5 minutes. So that is what I'm going to do now that that's in there, just to help those herbs bloom and to get some of the sharpness off of the garlic. So another 5 minutes and I'll be back. All right, so it's been about another 5 minutes and I've let this cook through. Everything is blooming. All those fragrances are filling the kitchen. Now we need to add in the water and the Better Than Bouillon. Now I already mixed the Better Than Bouillon into one of the 4 cups of water that I'm going to put in. So we're just going to add 10 cups altogether. As I said, she said 8 to 10, but I'm going with 10. So here's the water and the broth, another 4 cups and 2 cups. And now we want to bring this up to a boil, so I'm going to turn the heat up on this just to make sure we can get this boiling. Once it is boiling, we are going to turn it to a simmer. Now she says to then simmer it for 30 minutes, but she doesn't say whether she uses a cover or not. In the video that I saw, she did not, but I don't want all of my broth to evaporate. Well, not all of it will evaporate, but I want to keep as much as I can. So I'm going to partially cover the pot once it gets to a simmer. But we just need to bring this up to a boil first. So we are at a boil. I'm going to turn this down to medium-low to keep it at a simmer. And I'm going to, as I said, just partially cover this. Now, partially covering it just means you're going to leave a gap over here and in the back so that some of it can evaporate and you can get a little more concentration of flavor, but it's not going to dissipate as much as if we had no cover on at all. So now this has to go for 30 minutes and then I'll be back to finish it up. All right, so it has been half an hour. This has been sitting here simmering, letting those veggies soften up a bit, because now what we're going to do is blend them. And I have here my immersion blender, which is what Barrett used also. But if you don't have an immersion blender, although this is in my Amazon storefront if anyone's interested, you can use a regular blender. But I did want to show you something so that you are aware whenever you are blending hot liquids, you do not want this completely sealed. You do want this cap on tightly, but you want to remove what they call the fill cap. And they call it that because you can fill things from here. But you also don't want it just open or everything's going to spray. So when you are blending something hot, make sure the cap is on securely. Remove the fill cap and then take a towel and loosely cover it. You don't want to cover it tightly because you want some of that air to escape. As it's blending, it's going to build up steam, and if there is nothing to let that steam release, then it's going to explode the cap off of the blender and hot liquid's going to go everywhere. So don't be scared of blending hot liquids. Just make sure you're doing it correctly. Don't fill it more than half. Make sure the cap is securely on. Remove the fill cap and loosely cover it with a towel. Put your hand on the top so that it is secure, but air is still able to be released. If you do all of that, you'll be just fine blending this in a regular blender. But I'm not, as I said, I'm doing as Barrett did, using my immersion blender because I really do enjoy using this. So we're just going to go in and blend this up. Okay, so that looks good right there. What I'm going to do now is turn up my heat to medium-high. I want to get this boiling again, or at least very hot, because we are going to add in the pastina. All right, so it's starting to boil. Now I'm going to add in the half cup of pastina, or in my case, acino de pepe, and stir that through. Now I'm going to cook this until that is done. The package says it'll be 9 minutes. So I'm going to let this boil for 9 minutes. But if you had cooked it separately, you could add that in now with the white beans, if you were using the white beans, and you'd be done with it. But I'm going to let this cook for 9 minutes, stirring it occasionally, and I'll be back. All right, so it's been 9 minutes. The pasta has plumped up and I can see the little specks of pasta. I'm now going to turn this off, and now I'm going to add in the beans. You don't have to cook the beans, they're already cooked. We just want to heat them through, so I'm just going to stir those in, get those warming, put the lid on, and let this sit so those beans can heat through. Now, I haven't tried this yet, so I don't know how I'm going to enjoy it. Hopefully I enjoy it a lot. I will let you know right here what we thought of it. I decided, rather than putting a long note on the video here, that I would just pop in out on my porch and let you know what we thought. The soup is good as is, but there are a few changes that Paul and I would make for our own personal tastes. First of all, I wouldn't have used the lower sodium Better Than Bouillon, or if I did, I would add a little salt to the veggies as I was cooking them because it definitely needed more salt. Also, the pepper was very strong. It actually overrode all of that garlic and Italian seasoning. So I would reduce the pepper, the ground pepper, to a half teaspoon instead of a full teaspoon. And to add a little brightness to the soup, because it did feel a little flat, Just to add a little brightness, I would add about 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice to the soup the next time I made it. I did add some lemon juice after the fact, and it really did improve it for my taste. But the soup was good as is. However, for our tastes, those are the changes that I would make, and I'll list those down in the description box. Now, another thing I'm thinking you could do rather than just adding the beans is I would shred up some chicken breast and add that in here if I felt like having more protein than the beans will give me. But you can play around with it if you like. I appreciate Barrett sharing the recipe with me. Barrett also shared with me a code if you wanted to get her ebook. It would give you 10% off. If you wanted to get a printed copy, it would be free shipping. So that code is going to be Roy, and I will give you the link down in the description box if you want to go check that out. And speaking of cookbooks, my cookbook is still available and it is doing really well. I want to thank you all for that. I really do appreciate the support. Now I'm going to give you the nutrition facts for the way that I've made it here. And this is going to make 8 servings, and each of those servings is going to be 1 Better Balance Bite or Old Blue Point. I am on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is around where their current plan is. But if you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving is going to be 96. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 0.3 grams, saturated fat would be 0.1 grams, protein would be 4.9 grams, carbs would be 18.9 grams, fiber would be 5.1 grams, and sugars would be 3.3 grams for 1/8 of this pot. Now I hope that you enjoyed this recipe and this video, and if you did, I'd appreciate the usual: like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video, such as tomorrow, Saturday, April 13th. I am going live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, or 7 p.m. if you're in the UK. I'm going to go live with my pal Alan, who has a channel called Al Geeky Slimmer, and we are going to chat about weight loss, life, and his efforts to fundraise for the Stroke Association. So hit that notification bell so you're alerted when videos such as that come out. As I said, I'm going to share the recipe for this soup down in the description box, as well as any of the changes that I've made to Barrett's recipe. Also down there, you'll find a link to purchase my cookbook if you're interested in that. That link is only for US subscribers. If you're in another country, you will have to go to your Amazon and just do Recipes with Roy Cookbook in the search. Now, also down there, I have 2 new stores. One came out a little while ago, about a month ago, and the other one I did just recently because they had a greater variety of things that I wanted to share with you. They have planners, they have calendars for 2025, they have watches, they have aprons, they have all sorts of things. So check out my stores also down in the description box, and if you can purchase anything, it would really help support the channel. If not, I completely understand. Now also down there is my Amazon storefront if I've used anything, such as my Ace Cool stick blender, which also comes with 4 other attachments. That will be in my Amazon storefront. Also down there is my social media, my Instagram, and a bunch of Facebook groups that I'm part of. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. And now I think it is time for us to taste this delicious looking soup. And I hope you'll be doing the same yourself very soon. So until next time, bye.